Let me tell you a tale. Hey guys, it's the Unsmooth Criminal, and I am back with a what if that I think is going to be fun. Uh, the only line that I'm pretty much taking from a uh, video game, and this is the entire basis of this what if, is blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. That's the only line I'm taking out of this game. It's Warhammer 40k, and that's the only line. So when you hear me say it, I'm going to be saying it loud compared to everything else because I love this and chanting. Okay, so we start off on a battlefield, worn from months of fighting. Thousands on both sides have been lost. And the warriors of the attacking nation are on the battlefield and they stop fighting. And the defending nation is like, what are they doing? And all of a sudden, their mouth starts moving. And they hear blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. And it's just getting louder and louder and louder. And they're like, what's going on? And the scent of a fresh battlefield full of iron and burnt, charred bodies is changing. It's getting sweet. And this child butts in saying, Grandpa, this is a different story than normal. And he goes, oh, hold on. This is a different story, yes. But it's a different one of this God's adventures. And he goes, ooh, a new adventure. Why didn't you tell me the other one? He goes, we'll do that one again next night, tomorrow night. He goes, okay, Grandpa, can you please finish it? And he goes, I was getting to the good part. So yes, I'm finishing it. So while these people are chanting, the defending nation is smelling something sweet. The smell of burnt bodies and blood is leaving the air. And all of a sudden they're hearing people yell, blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. And their spines are just shivering. They feel this overwhelming urge to run. They don't know why, but they just are scared of what's coming. And they just see a small woman clad in black and red, her sword of crimson, her mask of crimson, her armor of black and red, just walking and smiling. And the chanting stops. You could hear the drop of a feather, the crackling of charred wood. You can hear the breathing that she's giving off. It's calm, it's light, and they're parting ways for her. And she's just walking forward, just slowly walking. And the enemies are asking, who is this girl? And she gets closer and closer. And all of a sudden, this throne comes out of nowhere. It just erupts from the ground like a volcano. And all these skulls are just pushing it out of the ground. And just pushing and pushing. thousands and thousands of skulls are pushing it out of the ground. And it's pushing and pushing, and she's on top of it, sitting on the throne. And her voice is soft and sweet, but it booms over the battlefield. You may continue fighting in my name. And her servants, or her warriors, whatever you want to call them, yell as loud as they can, yeah! And charge at the enemy fortress. And they rip it to shreds. And that's the end of the story for tonight. And he goes, but Grandpa, you didn't tell me about how they stormed the castle. And he goes, well, I'll tell you that part tomorrow night after I finish the first story. And he goes, fine, Grandpa. And he goes, okay, see you tomorrow night. And this little child goes, okay, Grandpa. And the child puts their head on the pillow. And the child says one phrase. A phrase that hasn't been told outside of a story in thousands and thousands of years. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. And this child just says it. And it's like, why does that seem so comforting? So he just puts it in the back of his mind. The next night, this child's grandfather comes back into the room and says, okay, I'm going to finish the first story. And this story is the origins of the blood god. And he goes, and this child goes, yes! And he goes, okay, so you remember how the blood god was tortured, enslaved, and thoroughly beaten for being different than everybody else? And this child goes, yes. It's very sad what this person went through. And he goes, oh, no. It's not just a person. This story has been passed down for many, many years. Apparently, we found the skeleton of the blood god. And he goes, what? And he goes, yes. Today, apparently, we found the blood god's tomb. And the child goes, oh, can I see? And he goes, I'm sorry, but no. If this is really the blood god's tomb, then the stories of old are true. Of the blood god being able to survive death. The blood god being a vampire. And depending on how many skulls it has in its throne, depends on how many lifetimes it can live. And he goes, oh. He goes, oh, don't worry. If this is the blood god, then they shall resurrect as the prophecy foretells in this tomb. And he goes, oh, that'd be so cool. He goes, yes. Do you know why this would be cool? And he goes, no, Grandpa, why? He goes, because the blood god only fights for the good of people. Even though the blood god's properties drive the good people mad, they use these mad but good people to fight the evil in the world. The blood god spawns chaos to create order. The blood god has taken up its ideals of chaos because the blood god loves the order. And this old man tells us another story and finishes the story of the castle siege and says, that is all these stories of old, and I shall retell them to you when you're older. We skip 20 years, and this child is fully grown and is a pro hero. And he's like, oh God, another one of those damn blood god cults. All Might, you gonna help with this one? And he goes, yes, Aizawa, I will. He goes, don't call me Aizawa while I'm on the job, idiot. Freaking Eraserhead. And he goes, sorry, Eraserhead. So where is it again? And he goes, abandoned warehouse. Oh my god. I can't believe I'm doing this again. This is the 15th cult I have to put down that worships the blood god. Ever since my grandfather found that tomb, these cults have been popping up everywhere. And All Might goes, wait, what tomb? And he goes, oh, that's a family secret. That's the only way that apparently the blood god can't be resurrected. And while that's happening, we go to a hidden passage in the Aizawa household with a woman waking up. And she looks around, and she's not in this armor. She's in a lovely black dress. Her eyes are blood red, and she has slits down her eyes. And she yawns and goes, it's good to wake up in the morning. And she looks around and she sees 5 bodies in front of her. And she goes, how long has it been? And she looks at these bodies and goes, oh, no! Dang it! I like them! Drat! Well, I gotta find some new crazy people to follow me. Hopefully I can get some people with blood abilities. Like them. And she looks at them and goes, I am hungry. I don't know how long it's been. Really, really hungry. Might as well go and eat. So she walks out of this thing and goes, I love my throne. And she shuts the door. And she sees metal. She's, why did they make armor into a hallway? And she sees this weird thing giving off light. And she goes, this is a really long torch. The hell? And she walks down the hallway and she sees a door. And it's not a normal door to her because there's no keyhole. And she tries pulling it open and she's like, why won't this open? And Aizawa's phone goes off. And he looks at his phone and it says, alert, breach, sublevel 3. And he sees this and he goes, oh shit. None of the other sublevels are breached. Crap. And All Might looks over and goes, Eraserhead, are you okay? And he goes, no, I'm not okay. Goddamn blood god's awake. And All Might goes, what do you mean? It's supposed to be a myth and legend. And he goes, my house is built where it is because it's hiding something. I'll show you if you can help me bring her down and knock her out. And he goes, sure thing. And they jump off the roof and go, this damn cult probably sacrificed some lives to do it. And probably buried a skull by itself. Damn idiots. And All Might's hearing this entire thing, goes, what do you mean? And he goes, there's 3 ways to wake up the blood god. 1, you bury a skull out in the middle of the woods. And this skull, no matter where it is in the world, gets sent to the blood god's throne to wake her up from her slumber. 2, you give her a human sacrifice, draining the body dry directly into her mouth. 3, you bite yourself and then put your arm in her mouth. Those are the 3 ways to awaken her. All 3 of them require death. And he goes, that's scary. And he goes, yeah. And what we just discovered when we first found her, oops, no, dang it, that needs to be uploaded. When we first found her is we took a sample of her. She's the first quirked person. And All Might goes, what? And finally, at Aizawa's house, Hold on, I'll be right back. Fox, I wish I didn't see that. I really wish I did not see that, Fox. I'm forever scarred. So where was I? And as I was ranting about how dangerous she is and how powerful she is, and All Might goes, "There's no one as powerful as me. I'm the number one hero." And he goes, "Yes, you're the number one hero. Whoop-de-doo. She's freaking immortal." And All Might goes, "There's no one immortal." And he goes, "Her quirk, which we've studied for, what is it now? 30 years? No, 20 years. 20 to 30 years. She has been alive in that sarcophagus, or coffin, whatever you want to goddamn call it, for thousands of years. You think she's not immortal?" And he goes, "She just has a longer lifespan." And he goes, "The skulls on her throne give her power. Once the skull becomes part of her throne, you can't take the skull off the throne." And he goes, "I shall try." And he goes, "Once you pull it off the throne, it crumbles to dust and reforms on the throne. You can't pull it off the throne." And he goes, "I shall still try." And he goes, "Damn musclehead." And he runs into his house and he sees Miss Joke. It says, "Go to the room, lock the door, and keep it shut." And she goes, "Oh no, did it happen?" And he goes, "Yes, now keep it shut." And she goes to her room, locks the door, clicks sublevel 3, breach protocol alpha, which shuts all windows with 50-inch reinforced steel and concrete walls that come out of the ground. His home turns into a box that not even All Might at 100% could break out of. And he opens the door to the first sublevel. And he goes down, walks down the corridor, which is a mile long, mind you. He goes down 300 feet below the surface, a mile long that way, or mile long north. He opens the next door, goes in. All Might's following him, and he's like, "Where the hell are we going?" And he clicks level 2, and it goes down to level 2. And he opens it, and he's, "All Might, get that fridge." And All Might looks over and sees a fridge, and he goes, "Why?" And he goes, "If she's woken up, she's hungry. We must feed her, or we're both dead." And he goes, "Oh, okay." So he picks up the fridge completely, and he goes, "Good, now follow me." And they walk all the way down to the end of the hallway, and Aizawa goes, "Hopefully she's hungry enough to just take any blood that she thinks is edible." And he says, "All Might, shake the fridge." And he's shaking the fridge while they're going down another mile. And he's like, "Oh God, please." And he opens the window to the door. And she sees him through the window, and he sees her, and he goes, "Aw, crap, she's already here." And he puts his finger up for 1 second, and she understands this because people did it when she was around. So she just stands there waiting, and he says, "All Might, put the fridge down and open it." And All Might opens the fridge, and he sees not 1, not 2 blood packs. The entire refrigerator is full of blood packs. And her mouth starts watering, and he goes, "Oh crap, she's hungry." And he goes 1 second and unlocks the door with 5 different latches and turns the handle, and she sees how the handle works, and he opens the door, and she darts off towards the fridge, and she starts drinking the entire thing. And All Might goes, "Hello, young lady." And And she's drinking and drinking, and he glares at him like he's interrupting her meal, because he is. And Aizawa goes, "With respect, blood god." And she goes, My name is Victoria." And he goes, "Okay. Your Majesty, please excuse my late arrival. I didn't know you have awoken." And she goes, "Oh, don't worry. I'm not mad. You gave me food after all." And he goes, "Thank you for understanding. Now, why have you awoken?" And she goes, "I felt bored. So I just awoke." And he goes, "Okay. I have a proposition for you, my lady." And he's acting super respectful, and he's speaking in a language that All Might can't understand. So All Might's completely lost, and Aizawa's giving him a sign to bow to her and grovel at her feet, and Aizawa glaring at All Might. All Might knows that if he doesn't follow Aizawa, he's dead. Because Aizawa's doing stuff that he apparently has been keeping secret because of how dangerous the person is. And Aizawa says in this other language that he will get a team together to continue her crusade. But for him to get the team together, she must continue living in this society. And she starts asking, "What is this world like now?" And he goes, "This world has flameless torches." And he's explaining everything that has changed in this world like he's from the past. And his grandfather taught him how to speak in this other language, how to read this other language, and how to write it. And he says, "I can teach you about this world, and I'm in a long line of hunters from your original crusade." And she goes, "What's your last name?" And he says, "Aizawa." And her eyes widen, going, "Aizawa? Like in the Viking Aizawa?" And he goes, "The one and only." And he lifts his head, saying, "And I'm here to help you live in this world. I have been waiting for your arrival since my birth, and my grandfather's birth, and my great-great-grandfather's birth." And she goes, I understand. Now you must teach me how to read and write and speak in this new language of yours. Because I heard you talking to that musclehead of a man over there." And he goes, "Yeah, he's an idiot. But I will help you learn this language and speak and write and read it if you join my class." And she goes, "What class? I've never needed class." And he goes, "Class is to help you learn and to help you blend in. Because if you don't blend in, you're not able to do the crusade." And she goes, "Damn it. Fine. But if I don't want to do it, I won't do it." And he goes, "That is understandable. But I will need to call you Victoria while in class." And she goes, "That's fine. Just lead the way." And she waves her hand like for him to go away. And he bows again, and he goes, "All Might, get the hell up. We're leading her out of here." And All Might goes, "But you just said for me to come and knock her out if needed." And he goes, "Yes, if she wasn't thinking straight. We showed her the blood, she drank, she ate, and now she's thinking straight. So, let's lead her out of here and talk to Nezu." because I have a class coming up this year, and she could be the 20th spot. So, and he goes, fine, fine, fine. And he starts leading them out, and he picks up the fridge with one arm, again, and he puts it down at the beginning, and he goes, there, it's back where it was. And Aizawa goes, I didn't need it. I was going to blow this area anyway. And All Might goes, what? And he goes, yeah, I was going to blow these tunnels. She can bring her throne anywhere. And he turns around and asks, so, how's the throne? And she goes, it's a little bigger than I remember. Maybe a meter or two higher. And his eyes widen, and he looks at All Might and goes, so the waking up rituals were wrong. And All Might goes, what do you mean? And he asks, so the rituals to wake you up were wrong. And she goes, the feeding me blood? No. The draining someone dry to feed me? No. Burying something, a skull into the woods and me waking up from it? That's completely bogus. I've been awake this entire time. I just was in hibernation. And he goes, yes, ma'am. And he continues walking, and he is just shocked that she's been awake this entire time, but she's just been lazily laying there. So we skip a week, and she's walking around town, and she's learned conversational Japanese. And Aizawa's been tasked to guard her and translate for her. So he's leading her around town, and she smells blood. And she says, in Japanese, blood. And Aizawa's eyes widen, going, where? And she points and says, in her native tongue, 3 miles that way, give or take a few feet. And he goes, damn. You know your distance. And she goes, yeah. I could throw that far. Well, actually, I could throw further. And she yawns, saying, I'm still tired. And he goes, okay, would you like to sleep again? And she goes, oh, hell no. I was just asleep for thousands of years. You think I actually want to go back to sleep? I'm just starting to wake up. And he goes, okay, let's go check it out. And she goes, right away. And she disappears. She just looks like she takes a step and disappears. And he goes, oh, crap. And he runs towards where she pointed, where the smell of blood was coming from. And he sees not just anybody, but the hero killer, Stain. And he just stabbed Native in the spine. Yes, I'm killing Native off. And she's on a roof just overwatching this and goes, did he chant? And she appears behind him and she asks, what is your ability, Matt? Young man? And he goes, and who the hell are you? And she goes, I'm the blood god. And what is your ability? And she's saying this in her tongue, and blood god is translated in her normal tongue to blood god. And he heard blood god, and he started groveling. Because all blood quirk people know of the story of the blood god and know that she is the birth of blood quirks. And she goes, raise your head. And he didn't understand what she's saying, and she's like, oh crap. Damn Japanese. And she started trying to say raise your head in Japanese, and she's butchering it drastically, and he raises his head knowing what she's trying to say, because the stories of old say that she spoke a different language. And she goes, good, good, good. And Aizawa shows up, and he sees that what Stain is doing. He's like, oh, crap. And he says, there you are. So, what do you want to do with him? And she goes, my translator. Send him to my tomb. And he goes, yes, ma'am. So he says, go to the tomb. And he says the coordinates. And Stain nods and runs off. And she goes, he's done some terrible things. And Aizawa goes, yes, Stain has. And she goes, no, not Stain. That man that you just sent to my tomb. Not him. Him. And she looks at Native and she goes, I can see through his blood that he has done some terrible actions. And Aizawa goes, what do you mean? And she goes, he's raped. He's killed. He's stolen. And he's abusive. And she's seeing all this and having flashbacks from when she was a slave. And her face goes from being disgusted to absolutely terrified. Her eyes glow red. Her hair starts to shorten. And her lovely black dress that she currently has on, that she never takes off, changes. And her combat mode appears. And Aizawa's like, crap. And she cuts Native's head off. And she starts stabbing him, and her sword allows her to control blood easier because it's literally made out of blood, so it just runs up the hilt and into an orb at the base of the hilt. And she just keeps stabbing and stabbing and stabbing. She's like, die, 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 die. And she's freaking out a little because she saw all this horrid abusive behavior from this man. And he's like, oh, crap. So he calls All Might and says, I need your help. And All Might appears being like, yes. And he goes, you're going to need to take his body and put it in the woods. And All Might goes, what do you mean? And he sees her just stabbing Native over and over and over. And All Might goes, miss, you must stop. And he tries to reach for her, and she just backhands him. And he goes flying through buildings. She just keeps stabbing and stabbing him. And she looks at All Might and goes, you are bleeding. I see your true heart. You must die. And she looks at Aizawa and says, kill him. And she has the rage in her eyes. And Aizawa looks at All Might sad because All Might is the number one hero. He's the symbol of peace. But also no one can stand up to the blood god. What she says is someone has to do it, or she does it herself. It eradicates everybody in the process. And he goes, yes, ma'am. And he starts saying a phrase. And her hearing this phrase, she smiles. Being like, yay, no one forgot it. And she's just grinning like mad now because she's going a little crazy. She's going into her blood god state. She's not going into the Victoria state, the Victoria vampire state. No, she's going into the blood god state, which all she wants is to kill heretics and people who don't believe in the supernatural and believe that what they do, whatever they do, is right. And All Might has done some horrible things thinking that it was right when it wasn't. And he learned out later, and he's still like, oh, well, I did it. Who could stop me? I'm the number one hero. And she sees this like disgusting pig and Toga feels a disturbance. Who else has a blood quirk? Some villains feel a disturbance, and everybody who has a blood quirk, their blood starts to churn faster. The heart starts to beat with excitement. And they all say the same phrase at the same time. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. And they start chanting. No matter who it is, no matter where they are in the world, they start chanting this. And there's been Aizawas in America, Russia, Europe, Japan, China. And this family's spread out everywhere. And the only ones who are actually affected by the blood god's curse, which is the ability to control and use blood as abilities, which is the blood god's curse, is the Aizawas in Japan. And everybody around the world, the Aizawas who are on the news say, "Breaking news! The blood god's curse has been activated." And all the Aizawas are freaking out, except for Shota Aizawa. And Miss Joke has been calling every relative of Aizawa around the world, telling them that the blood god has been awoken. So they're trying to control this curse, but there's no effect. So Shota Aizawa, the teacher of UA, just keeps saying this while he's walking towards All Might, and he sheds a tear. And Shota Aizawa has 2 quirks. One is he can turn people's quirks off with his eyes. And 2, when he drinks someone's blood, their quirk is erased permanently. That's his blood quirk. But he must drink it and consume it, and their quirk is erased permanently. And so he's walking to All Might, and he's saying this phrase, and All Might is like, "Eraserhead, stop! I'm the number 1 hero." And he goes, "Too bad the blood god ordered you dead." And he starts to smile and chant louder. And whenever someone is ordered dead by the blood god, the chanting starts. And when they die, the chanting stops with one powerful yell of "the blood god rules." And all this chanting, they're just in a daze doing what they were supposed to be doing, everybody around the world. And this chanting continues. And they continue doing what they're trying to do, and people on the phone are just chanting, and they think they're trying to say they think they're saying what they're trying to say. But the other person on the other side of the line is just hearing "blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne," and it's just getting louder and louder and louder. The closer Aizawa steps, the stronger the curse is. And the blood on the end of the sword is made this sphere. And she's like, "Blood of the guilty is so sweet." And she starts drinking it. And she gets a high, or she has a feeling of euphoria from it. And Shota Aizawa gets right next to All Might, cuts him, and says, "Blood for the blood god." And he takes a lick of the blood. And he swallows. And All Might, in his buff form, buffs down. He's like, "What the hell just happened?" And he goes, "My quirk, absolute eraser. I look at someone, I can turn their quirk off. I drink someone's blood, their quirk is erased from existence. And All Might looks at Eraserhead horrified. And she goes, "Go ahead." And a small throne has appeared out of bone. And he goes, "Yes, mistress." And she hears this and goes, "Whew, I haven't been called that in years. You're too old for me, though. I prefer my younger breed." And he goes, "Okay, goddess." And she goes, "I like that better. Goddess Victoria, the blood god." And now, the execution of All Might. Everybody sees this. The execution of All Might shall be done on orders of the blood god. And everybody who's been affected by the curse, all they're saying, including the people who are newscasters with blood quirks, are saying, "Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne." And this is being broadcasted everywhere in the world. Everybody's seeing this and hearing this. It's being said in the original tongue, so everybody can hear this saying. She goes, "The chanting of my people. So soothing." And she's just watching as Eraserhead drives the knife into All Might's chest. And then asks Goddess Victoria, "May I borrow your sword?" And she goes, "Sure." And she flicks it up in the air, grabs the blade, and hands it to him. And he goes, "Thank you." And he takes the sword, and he, with one strike, cuts All Might's head off. And his head rolls on the ground, and everybody saw this, and they saw the pro-hero Eraserhead cut off All Might's head. And the camera goes to the image of not her, but her. And she's sitting on her throne, cross-legged, and the camera looks at her, and she looks at the camera, and she's drinking the blood of native, warm, fresh blood. And she can learn knowledge from warm, fresh blood, not cold, aged blood. And she says, in Japanese, fluently, "I have returned." And the caption underneath the image says, "Blood God rules." And she goes, "The worship of me shall continue." And she bows, and she sits back down, cross-legged, and the throne just disappears. And Aizawa is gone with it. We go to Stain, standing on top of the coordinates, waiting. And this mountain of bones starts to protrude out of the ground. And its speed makes it look like an eruption of bones. But on the top is one throne. And he grovels at the mountain and says, "The blood god's rule is absolute." And she goes, "As my first order of business, I shall reinstate my family into the mix." And she goes, "Find me the one who can transform. We have the one who can stop people. We have the one who can cancel people. And find the one that transforms. Then we need the strength, and then the speed. And then we have all 5 of my family." And Aizawa and Stain both look at her and say, "Yes, Goddess Victoria," in unison, and they disappear. And she goes, "I love ruling." And a man walks up to her and says, "Shall I build you the castle again?" And she goes, "No." build me what is it called in New York? A skyscraper? And he goes, yes, goddess Victoria. So we skip 15 years to the time of canon. Villains are afraid of walking outside. Heroes are on the rooftops scouting around, and all heroes roughly have a blood quirk. The ruling body in Japan and across the entire world is Victoria. And I'm going to end it there for this part. This is going to be a 3-part series, and this is going to be very, very fun. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Talk to you guys later. Bye!